Series 1 of Group B has concluded, and now, in just a little bit, it's going to be time for Series number 2. Let's take a look at where we are so far during the day here in Group B.
Yeah, the Norwegian just off to an absolutely fantastic start. 2-0 versus Kerr, and is halfway through being first place in the round of 16. But now it is time for our other two Protoss players to take shape, MaNa and BlinG.
Yeah, one of them has already fallen into the lower in the form of Kerr. And now these two battle out to see who's going to be going up against Snoot. So BlinG and MaNa, two faces that we're all very familiar with in the European scene now. They've been around for quite a while.
Yeah, these two players just stand out as really veteran Protoss players. But MaNa's a little bit older in terms of experience within the scene and just in StarCraft in general. MaNa has been playing StarCraft competitively since he was 13 years old. 13 years old, a very, very long time ago. And BlinG, on the other hand, though, is a much newer age Protoss player who came into StarCraft within StarCraft 2. But in terms of results, it is BlinG who is leading the way right now. MaNa was a former champion back in 2012 and prior to that. But in Heart of the Swarm just has not hit the same heights. BlinG is recently a third-time Premier League player.
Yeah. And not only that, but it was the round of 16 of all things. So he's done pretty well for himself. Kind of stumbled, kind of at that hurdle in the round of 16, but that's nothing to sniff at because the lineup that we had in the round of 16 last season was pretty darn good.
Yeah, BlinG has just been making leaps and bounds recently with his performances. He's struggled historically against Zerg players, but has looked better and better with each season that has passed. He's improved his Protoss versus Protoss, and he's always had a pretty good game versus Terran. Overall, this guy on screen is just becoming a better player overall. He's becoming one of the best Protoss players in Europe, slowly but surely. And of course, a special shout out goes to BlinG's mum, who gave us a quote for today.
I hope we can have another interview with BlinG's mum. That was quite fun last season. But now, obviously, we go to a previous, I would say, King of the Mountain.
Yes.
Because back in the day, in 2012, this guy was rivaling for best foreigner in terms of winning tournaments left and right, ESWC and DreamHacks, for example.
This guy on screen was considered by a few the best Protoss player outside of Korea for a long time. This guy was up there. But the problem with MaNa was that he was a little bit inconsistent. He had a very high peak when he went to Korea. He played in Korea. He played within the GSL. But in Heart of the Swarm, let's just cut to the chase. There was a reason, and there is a reason, why he isn't still playing for Team Mouse Sports. He isn't and wasn't the same player that he should have been. Team Liquid have always picked up potentials. They see that this guy is a special player. They see that he really has the potential to be the best. It is his debut back in Premier League for Team Liquid. He was a former Premier League player but got knocked down to Challenger and was stuck in Challenger for a bit, but he makes it back into Premier League today and hopefully can move on to the round of 16 to make his team and the manager proud.
That's right. MaNa looking to get back to true form that he rightfully deserved. And now the countdown has begun for our second series of the day in this PvP. One thing's for sure, though, is that BlinG has impressed me in his Protoss versus Protoss. Last season, for example, doing very, very well there. And he could quite happily give a good old rivalry to MaNa here.
A lot of people are looking at this group saying these are the two players who are fighting for second place. A lot of people are just throwing Kerr as fourth place in this group no matter what. But anything can happen now with three Protoss players here. And we'll see which one can get the jump start, because this is the easiest way, obviously, into the round of 16, is getting into that winner's match and making it a little bit easier for yourself.
All right, let's load up. King Sejong Station will be our first map as we get right into this Protoss versus Protoss. Up to the top left-hand corner, we have our blue Protoss representing Team Liquid. It's Liquid's MaNa. And down to the bottom right-hand corner, our red Protoss representing Team Dignitas. It is BlinG.
And despite throughout all of StarCraft, MaNa being the more so accomplished player, and of course BlinG being the more recent one, head-to-head, BlinG is 2-0. He hasn't lost versus MaNa in an official tournament setting yet, which is quite a big statement in itself entering this group.
Yeah, It is. It gives him a little bit of an edge, that's for sure, especially with how well BlinG is playing PvP right now. Both players have opted to go for Pylon behind Mineral Line here just to keep the buildings out of the way of anything that may be going on at the front of your base. Because in PvP, something that's really important is how much room you actually have to be able to move and around if an engagement, early aggression is to come.
Cannon rushes, proxy gateways, future use and protection around the mothership core if you are being assaulted. There's multiple reasons for this to be hidden away, but look at this. MaNa has moved out with a probe early, and he's thrown down a forge inside his main base. He has come into this series prepared, and his preparation is for game 1 to cannon rush BlinG, to offset the balance between the both of them, to put BlinG under pressure, because BlinG is coming to this head-to-head favorite. He's coming to this as a round of 16 player from last season, whereas MaNa was a Challenger League player. And is that probe going to be spotted? It sneaks around the left-hand side here. It gets into the main base, and this is already a massive start for BlinG. I mean, for MaNa.
Yeah.
This is huge, not having seen that probe.
Absolutely perfect timing here. BlinG is actually throwing a pylon down on the natural.
Mind games coming out here. BlinG trying to hide a probe, and he doesn't spot anything down this left-hand side as well.
I can't believe he didn't get that one either. That's a real disaster for him there. He could actually throw down a gateway here if he wanted to.
I think he's either, I don't know what he has planned there, but it can be a cannon to support from the low ground here. But now BlinG's going to see that. And that is something which cannot really be dealt with very easily.
Bit difficult. That first cannon's already started behind this. BlinG, in desperation, pulls off a few probes, starts working on that first cannon before the one at the back has completed. Goes for the full surround on the second one as well. Will actually deny this pretty quickly with minimal losses.
Well, maybe, I think MaNa maybe have built the cannons a little bit too soon there.
Yeah.
The probe. When he catches the probe.
Did he see that one? He possibly saw that one as well on the low ground.
He just caught the probes.
He knows it.
2 cannons there.
He knows it's there. Look, he saw it on the low ground, I believe, with these, and he anticipated it coming up, but
if he gets
realize.
a Stalker out in time,
he
can start denying these cannons.
Yeah, he could. And that's going to be coming out very, very quickly here. The probes, once again, have come off. He can start working on this out of range of the initial cannon. And this is going well.
It looks like this... these cannons.
Look, they're out of range. Oh, this is not a good start here for MaNa. Okay, he gets one probe. But as long as he could start working on this one as well if he...
Yeah, he'll get all 3, I think. Because if he stops this just about... Oh, it's close. Oh, and he needs to use probes again. And he needs to, he needs to tank it with his Stalker. He has to.
All right, well, he's got 7 workers killed
Where's the other Stalker?
17 to 17.
Oh, he doesn't want to take his probes off. He's got to keep fighting with the probes.
The other Stalker is on the way. Almost finished up.
And he can start another one, if not a Mothership Core too. He's got to keep using his probes here.
Yeah.
2 Stalkers makes this twice as fast.
Yeah, all easier. So these guys are going to be able to bring that down.
This is stopped now.
Yeah, MaNa has to go back. Thankfully for MaNa, during all of this, he realized pretty early on that it wasn't going to be the full kill move that he wanted and needed. He needed to do some damage, otherwise he was going to be flat out dead.
Very good defense from the UK player. Very, very good there.
All right, so now we get to a point where the Warp Gate tech is so much more further on for BlinG in comparison to MaNa.
BlinG has multiple options here. Just like any other matchup in StarCraft here, you can use your advantage and throw it in multiple different angles. He can expand, realizing that MaNa's on the complete back foot. He can be aggressive, and with a probe and pylon inside the base of MaNa by the looks of it on the minimap, he's going to go kill him off, or at least attempt to.
Yeah.
He's got the Mothership Core out. He's got a pylon ready to go. MaNa is a long way away from having a photon overcharge. He's a long way away from being able to warp units in. He doesn't have a defensive cannon at all. And MaNa's strategy and attempt to start this one fast is backfired.
I mean, it says everything when he's chrono boosting into the gateway, cybernetics core, and mothership core, because he needs everything out as quickly as possible. But alas, you don't have infinite energy on that Nexus, and he's going to have to use the probes here to fight.
And he can warp in some Stalkers to fight the probes, melee versus melee. The Mothership Core goes down, and this is the start of the end for MaNa.
So great hold by BlinG there. Despite not seeing it at the very beginning, MaNa had a little bit of luck there getting in with the probes at the right time, but it didn't go so well in the end.
I think it was more so MaNa making a couple of mistakes.
GG.
Cannons out a little bit too early, a little bit too far forward. Could have executed that a little bit better, but BlinG capitalizes on weakness and takes map number 1 to himself.
So a little bit of a quick rapid fire round here in our first game. We've been seeing quite a bit of these actually in PvP as of late, be it from Challenger and onwards. But that's the start of this series. MaNa now has to make his way back through this series, and I can only imagine it's going to be through a bit more standard PvP. Going for something a bit crazy again, probably not going to work out, I don't think.
Yes, just like we saw Kerr attempt in map number 2, we saw MaNa attempt here in map number 1. And if it doesn't work, you fall quite far behind, and BlinG, like mentioned, capitalizes. But now going into map number 2 here, it is Frost. MaNa has a tall order ahead of himself. Being able to move into the winner's match is huge. It's a nice advantage. Going down to the loser's match, the pressure starts to pile up. You're less and less likely to advance out of this group. It's important for MaNa to equalize this. Yeah,
it really is. You don't want to be going down to that lower bracket in this group at all, because one of the interesting things, as much as Kerr is a relative unknown on the large international stage, his Protoss versus Protoss is kind of scary.
Well, he did beat Genius 3-0 to qualify to Premier League itself, so he's definitely not a player you want to be messing around with, and definitely not ideally wanting to be playing in a loser match or a lower bracket match in a best of 3. As many people know, Protoss versus Protoss can be very volatile, especially in a best of 3 scenario. One mistake means you're 1 game down, and then 1 mistake after that, and you are gone, just like MaNa could potentially be here.
So BlinG is looking good. The countdown has begun for game number 2 on Frost, as you previously mentioned. And again, I'm thinking a different flavor for this game. If anything crazy were to come out from MaNa's side of things, I would be pretty surprised. But I think thinking back on MaNa's road through StarCraft, never really known for his Protoss versus Protoss. I would say, you know, being able to deal with Zergs and Terrans a whole lot more. The mirror matchup never really was the biggest of factors in there. So
it needs to be today.
It does. It really does, especially when you've got 2 other Protoss in your group. All right, let's jump into game number 2. Find out if MaNa can equalize it. He spawns down in the bottom left-hand corner as our blue Protoss. It is Liquid MaNa. And up to the top right, currently 1 game up as our red Protoss. It is Dignitas BlinG.
So here on Frost, the playstyles that are seen quite commonly are fast expansion builds, but also Stargate builds too. Stargate builds do well against fast expansion builds, which is why you do see the both of them. But a lot of the time, there is a slight bit of dice rolling within this matchup, because this build does better versus this build, then this build does better versus that build, and it can go on and on and on. The one strategy and style we do not see is robotics facility plays early. So it does revolve heavily around 4 different things usually: gateway pressures, Twilight Council openings, Stargate openings, and fast expansion builds. These are the 4 choices which these players have to choose from, really.
That's true. That is true. And they're all like, it's that circular countering of how that can work out in PvP.
Gateway pressure can do well versus a tech choice, but fast expansions usually quite good versus gateway pressure. Fast expansions are good versus Twilight Council play sometimes, if executed well, but can be weaker versus Stargate play. Stargate play is good versus this, and then this, and it just goes round and round and round.
Just keeps going. And double gases for both of these guys. So again, as we were mentioning, just into the transition of this game, this is going to be a bit more vanilla than the previous game. So MaNa here trying to play us out a bit further. It's so hard as a Protoss player against another Protoss player on a map like this to do anything super crazy, because it's a 4-player map. You just can't anticipate fully where they're going to be from the very get-go.
Well, MaNa has decided to go 3-3 in both the simulators immediately. BlinG was a little bit slower, but is still in 3-3. So both have quite heavy gas income, the highest you can get at this point. You can notice in the top right, which MaNa has just a little bit more. Like 10, 15, or just a little bit more there than his opponent. So both players do have and will have a bit of gas banked up. BlinG has saved a chrono boost here, compared to his opponent, who's thrown it into the Nexus immediately, which means MaNa has a plan straight away. And we do see the differences in the cybernetics core through the differences of mining gas a little bit more for MaNa and focusing a little bit more on minerals here for BlinG. BlinG having the faster warp gate research. There is the sentry, which does start to indicate an expansion build from BlinG. Could still be tech, though.
Yep, could be. But to solidify, your point about an expansion play, it helps out so much, be it the force field initially for the defense, or later on you see nothing coming. Well, I can use this as Hallucinate Phoenix to get over there and really get a feel of what he's going to be throwing at me.
And unfortunately for MaNa, he's not going to be able to be seeing which unit is going to pop out here. Stalker and Sentry both tells very different stories. MaNa here is going for a Stalker, but no tech choice yet. What is it going to be, MaNa? Make your decision, boy.
Yeah, that Sentry. Try and get him.
Stalker Sentry. So Stalker Sentry could be an expansion build for MaNa himself here. Just a little bit slower. Oh, Twilight Council's coming in.
All right, okay. Well, it was a little bit delayed, in essence, compared to where it could have potentially been at least, but...
So, in terms of which build has a slight advantage over which build, I would be favoring BlinG by a little bit here.
Yeah.
He's going to have the same tech choice by throwing this down, by the way, which is actually a little bit more dangerous for BlinG. Let's say greedy. I think he's gambling a little bit to get himself further ahead. For example, if we see Dark Templar now from MaNa, then he's actually in a pretty good position because obviously BlinG has no detection at all to stop this.
And will he actually go for it? He's not moved any probes down here just yet, throwing Dark Shrine down, so we'll find out in just a little second.
Yeah, the usual follow-up from a position BlinG's in is either the Robotics Facility or Stargate in case there's DTs. But he's gone for the Twilight Council, which means he'll have the same upgrade as MaNa, but with a faster expansion here, more powerful economy, and faster gateways coming in too.
Yeah.
So just a better position overall through gambling a little bit here. Like mentioned, he would have been in pretty much quite a bit of trouble against Dark Templar play.
Yeah, it's the complete reversal of builds in terms of how they planted buildings down between the Nexus and Twilight Council, and in the end, favors BlinG. So he even gets a full scout off of his opponent with this hallucinated Oracle, which is nice. Sees the Robo, sees the Twilight Council being Chrono boosted into.
Yeah, and in this position, you're probably feeling rather happy with yourself.
Oh, yeah.
As you can see, he's just got the better end of the builds and is overall in better shape. Therefore, he Chrono posts immediately into the Nexus to further his economy much more so than it would have been without this. So he can start to think about his next part of the plan. It's going to be a forge. It's going to be an upgrade. He's going to just go further into the game from this point, which means taking the gases on the natural, looking to choose his strategy and style and composition of the army he will want to build, whereas MaNa on the other side of things will have to start to make that decision now with this Hallucinated Phoenix. He goes in, sees Chrono Boost into the Nexus, sees everything that's going on, and now pretty much has to play the same. If he plans an attack, BlinG will most likely spot it, having his sentries out. I think he has like 2 or 3 out. No, 3 there. So he's going to see any attack incoming. MaNa has to play the same, but behind.
Yeah, it's a really troubling position here for MaNa, especially after also seeing the Forge near completion without having your own Forge down. It's like, that's really, really irritating, because catching up with upgrades is a big deal in this matchup.
MaNa's going to try and fight, I think. I mean, he's going to move out, but he can't achieve anything here. He's got to pile and probe the other side. He's warping in 3 Stalkers, but with 2 Photon Overcharges available, with a decent amount of units out for BlinG with equal upgrades, and he can blink forward here, remember. Ooh. Both players can blink, remember.
Yeah, that was a nice attempt to block there from MaNa, but in the end, it completely backfired. Trying to chase that one down as well. Didn't have vision through the brush, but now on the other side of it, reinforcing with those Stalkers, though.
2-0 for BlinG in Stalker kills.
That's a big resource lost.
So we saw MaNa dedicate a few resources to moving out there and warping in more units, which did nothing. He just lost them. So he dedicated resources, which slowed down his gases and tech and upgrades to try something which was immediately cleared off the game. So BlinG extends his lead further. And this is just looking absolutely fantastic. And now we can really see why BlinG is becoming one of the better Protoss players in Europe, and why he was able to defeat Stardust in the round of 32 last season, why he was able to defeat Happy in the round of 32 last season, and give really good games versus San and Nurchio in the round of 16.
Yeah, especially his Protoss versus Protoss. It's looking very, very refined.
He almost beat San in the round of 16.
Exactly, exactly. So that's this is looking good for BlinG so far.
Yeah.
3 extra gateways on the way, and with that +1 weapons finishing, if he just Chrono boosts into that, which he is doing right now, gets straight onto +2 because he opened with the Twilight Council anyway. Everything's lining up nicely for him. Even gets an Observer in the main.
Yeah, it's from this position on, BlinG just keeps on playing the game out. Just the next part of the plan should just happen naturally for him. He doesn't need to make any ballsy moves. He doesn't need to be the man to change the state of the game because he's the one winning it. You can try to finish it, which players like MC and other killer instinct-oriented players will do, but BlinG just needs to expand, and he just needs to say, MaNa, it's up to you to change the state of this game, because if you don't, then I will get to a bigger and better army faster, which means I will eventually kill you before you are there, because I'm in the lead and I'm winning this race to that army. So it comes down to MaNa trying to do something to stop BlinG. And I think he's going to attack soon.
Yeah, I think also if BlinG has been really on point with his scouting, with his hallucinated phoenixes, etc., that he sent over there prior, then he will know that he has the Legion upgrade and knew the timing of the Forge as well. So it's a really nice spot to be in for BlinG. It must feel so comfortable here whilst he's taking a third base. And MaNa right now looks to take his as well, but it's still delayed.
Yeah, I wonder where MaNa's going to try to do this. He has to attack eventually within this game. If not, then it will be BlinG attacking first with the better and stronger army, as mentioned.
Yeah.
But as you can see, MaNa's going to throw down his third. He's playing a different style to BlinG. He's playing the Zealot Charge, Immortal, and Archon style. Very good at in the middle of the map fight, in open area. He's even got the Stargate coming in to start to aim towards the Fleet Beacon to counter Colossus, having seen that BlinG's at Colossus tech. BlinG, though, is looking to build a better army overall in this game. MaNa's weak, but once the Fleet Beacon comes into the game, very strong.
Yeah.
But BlinG needs to spot this Stargate to kind of know the position he's in.
Yeah, the Stargate can turn things on its head if you don't give it full respect when going into this later stage. And I think that in the end, how this is working out, the Dark Shrine here is if BlinG is able to get in, once or twice with those Dark Templars and either do a little bit of damage to the probe line, but most importantly, like keep his opponent at home, that's a big deal.
Bit of a movement out here from MaNa. Has to be very, very careful. He does have a decent amount of units, but so does BlinG. And BlinG can continue to warp in units. He stopped pro production, realizing this threat is here. And also there's Dark Templar, a Dark Shrine about to finish. So remember that as a threat to the army, and also from that Warp Prism heading up to the top left-hand side here.
Yeah, there's no Observer with this army at all.
BlinG's poking forward to the Stalkers. He's having a look what's going on. Is this fight happening? Is he going to come and try to attack me now? What is this exactly?
That's not a fun fight. 10 Stalkers versus 4 Immortals. They'll run away for now.
MaNa is going to back off. Remember, MaNa's trying to build up towards the Fleet Beacon and also trying to build up towards having those Tempests in the game. But this is a nice counterplay here by BlinG. Didn't get the robotics to the second robotics facility. Didn't look to further his tech. He used it for harassment instead. And this is a big move for BlinG.
He could actually just kill that Nexus. There's no Observer. There is no Observer on the map. How do you build a cannon there in time for the Dark Templar to die off? That you don't. So this is going to be very difficult. The DT and the Natural as well. This army is trying to shut that down. And thankfully, it was in range of the cannon.
Stalkers are coming in to aid this. Or are they? They may blink in to try and help deal some extra damage. They can always blink away, remember?
He's realized he can kill it. He has realized, because there's always that fear in your mind. It's like, right, when's the Observer coming? When's the Observer coming? Oh, it's not coming? Oh, well, I just get a free Nexus.
Yeah, and he has the Warp Prism in the top left as well. Not too sure how much that can do here. But BlinG has also spotted the Tempests. So from this position, BlinG says, "Yeah, get in, my son. I'm 1-0 up. I'm about to be 2-0. I've killed his third base. Yes, he has Tempest, but I'll stop my Colossus production and prepare an overwhelming ground force." He needs to add on 4 or 5 more pylons, 4 pylons to be exact, so he can make sure to build up to that 200 supply, throw a bunch of gas into Archons, and then just kill his opponent.
2 Tempests here aren't exactly going to kill these Colossi as quickly as he would like to be doing, of course. And moving down now here to the south, whilst we have a few... this army for Liquid MaNa is just not enough.
Yeah. This is, I mean, just look at the numbers at the top of the screen. BlinG's about to be at 200 supply once these pylons finish up, and there is not really a way to stop this. There's nothing that BlinG can do to get to the Tempest in the air, but what he will do is clear out everything in the way first, then get to the Tempest last.
Yeah. With 4 Tempests being here now, as that last one does finish, that's a lot of firepower against those Colossi, so they will be brought down pretty fast, but there's still so much on the ground. It's not really going to make a huge amount of difference. Those 3 Archons could tank quite a bit, though, in MaNa's army, so...
He does have, a lot of Immortals in this, remember, as well.
Yeah.
But BlinG's army is better equipped here. +3 attack versus not +3 attack, overall more units.
BlinG forwards. Oh, just barely gets that Nexus Cannon down on it. It's not going to make a massive amount of difference.
BlinG backs off here, needs to reposition his army. He's got all the Zealots at the back, and he can wait until the Photon Overcharge is gone, or try to attack somewhere else and then go in again.
Getting that Mothership Core would have been nice, because it still has energy for one-time warp, but didn't focus it down at the very end of that battle.
Yep. The player from the United Kingdom looking to pounce to victory here. is going to send all his zealots one way and the main army the other. And that's not the best way to do this, I don't think, but it's a way to do it no matter what.
I guess he just wants to snipe out on this base, but it's a big investment. Resources lost probably far in favor of MaNa there, but he gets the Nexus and technically...
Definitely not the best way to do this, but it got the job done in terms of killing the third. He's still in the lead in this game, but threw a lot away there. That definitely wasn't the best fight he could have ever taken. He didn't have his Mothership core with him, and kind of just threw those Zealots into the pit of fire, which is the Archons, which is a little bit silly there. And MaNa with a supply advantage for the first time really in this game. He's definitely going to bounce back to this onto the other side. BlinG is very low in gateways, or not very low, but not as high as he could be, considering the money that he has.
This is like MaNa's opportunity, right? He has to do something in this window.
Yeah, I mean, BlinG's given him an opportunity to bounce back in this game. A little bit silly there from BlinG, but it's still a hard thing to capitalize on.
And the thing is that during all of that, with the Mothership core being where it is, that army that was left over could have recalled out and, you know, gotten away, and that would have been a much better position for BlinG, but now that's going to die.
Well, the thing is now is that the army underneath the Tempest, which we talked about for a lot in this game, was not very big for MaNa. So BlinG could have just smashed through that smaller army, killed the Tempest. But now the army underneath the Tempest is relatively large. So it's not quite as easy as it once was in this game. So now the big question is, how is BlinG going to combat these Tempests?
I guess with mass Stalkers and just try and blink under them and kill them.
Well, he's already killed one just about there, or actually escaped with 14 hit points.
Very close. And the thing is that the problem with mass Stalker attempt is that with the amount of Immortals still there, with the Archons, with extra Zealots warped in, that's not really the strongest of armies here for BlinG.
No, it's not. And this is taking an interesting turn, this game. So, I mean, if you look at the overall army, there's 4 Tempests in the sky, which are going to deal out a lot of damage. It's going to be quite frustrating to fight. 7
Immortals.
Yeah. We might be restarting this, by the way, if you can read in, obviously, in the game there.
Yep.
BlinG has lost his sound. All right, so
I think I agree that playing with sound is quite useful.
Yeah, I've been in talks in here, so I cannot say anything. I don't even know if the admin's in there.
Okay, let's recover the game.
Okay. All right, so we will recover the game. But in this position, we talked about how good of a position BlinG was in.
Yes.
To move on to play Snoot. Now things have changed. That attack was not the best thing in the world there. No. And the game is in a difficult spot. It's a lot more equal between the two of them.
You know, I would have liked that attack more if they were going to converge from both sides and just go straight for the army.
Yeah.
That way. I mean, maybe you're not 100% guaranteed to win because there are Tempests there, but you're killing so much off on the ground whilst you had an economical advantage from the very beginning anyway, because the natural was earlier, the third was earlier, that BlinG would have been able to just make more stuff and win.
Yeah, I mean, he's still up, you know, 1 base, 4 bases to 3. He still has an upgrade advantage. It's just the army that he has built isn't correct at the moment. It's not ideal to fight against what MaNa has for the time being. Because MaNa, if you think about the way this shaped up, focus very heavily on Immortals and Archons. He has more of those than BlinG does, which is going to be very key in the fight. He also has these Tempests, which are unanswered for. There is literally nothing which can shoot at them yet. He has Stalkers, but they will not get close with so many Immortals and Archons. He doesn't have any air of his own, which is what we see happen. Because eventually in Protoss versus Protoss, when both players get up to Tempest, if the game gets that long, it then becomes a battle in the sky, which we've seen within Korea, which becomes Tempests and Phoenixes, and a lot of them. Because you've got to win the air battle, because Tempest will win the game. So BlinG's in a bit of trouble, and you know, maybe he should take this time too while restarting his game to start to think about addressing the problem. He's got an upgrade lead, which isn't going to last for much longer because MaNa has his coming in. He has a base incoming, which MaNa doesn't. But the biggest problem, how does he stop the Tempests? Does he need a flank? Does he need to overwhelm the underneath of what MaNa has and then try to walk over the army? It's difficult.
It's very difficult. And you might have to go straight to basics and somehow contrive out a massive Zealot Stalker army if you're not going to be able to tech up to, like, the air, which you're never really going to get room to.
He's not going to have room to get Tempest of his own.
Exactly.
He doesn't even have a Stargate yet. He's nowhere near to getting the Stargate. the Fleet Beacon and Tempest. MaNa would kill him before that happened. So he needs to spend his resources in the army to keep the fight balanced between the both of them. But it can never really be balanced because of the Tempest. So it's a very difficult position, this.
Yeah.
And to think of the lead he was in to the position he's in now must be frustrating a little bit for sure, considering that this should have been a 2-0 on his behalf. But, well, mistakes can happen from the beginning of the game to the end of the game. And this is one which can definitely bite him. Yeah,
it completely turns on its head with the decision. I mean, crippling the economy is fine and dandy. It's nice, but you always have to kind of consider the repercussions of those maneuvers if you're going to sacrifice that large amount of your army to do something like that. So it's an interesting dynamic, though. It's not a decision you see too much of, actually. But the way it's been executed here does leave a few questions above our heads.
Yeah, this is a jigsaw puzzle which BlinG has to complete, but it seems like pieces are missing. So it's going to be hard to solve this. And he's got to think fast as well. Yes, he's got to think fast on this because, as you can see, or could have seen, they were both in the middle. They're both thinking about the options. And MaNa knows that he's got to use this advantage, these Tempests, to his advantage, to try to equalize this up, to try to take it to the third game here. Otherwise, he would go to the losers match and have to fight the difficult fight here in today's group.
All right, so before we get into the game, guys, because we're just recovering, make sure to head over to Twitter and hashtag WCS to tweet at us exactly what you're thinking about these games, these groups. Again, a very interesting dynamics playing out in this group right now with Snoop currently leading the charge. And BlinG could be up in that winner's game as well. But
if he finds the problem, he finds the answer to this problem.
And it's a tough one.
All right, your tweets do get featured in the show. If you've been watching, you've obviously been seeing them pop up here and there. So here we go.
All right.
So BlinG's on the retreat, as you see. And now he's got to, as you can see in the production tab, figure out a response to fight this. He can try counterattacks, double Stargate coming in.
All right.
He's going to try and get up to the composition that MaNa has. But he needs to buy time. Dark Templar, Zealot run-bys. If MaNa just attacks now, this is dangerous. He needs to somehow buy himself time. The Warp Prism is that time. It's on the natural. Does MaNa come back? If he puts the Warp Prism inside the main base as well, it may drag MaNa back.
Yep,
he's not falling for it. He's going forward still.
This is still a strong, powerful attack that we have here for MaNa. Hallucinated Colossi are one of the answers maybe that are going to work out here, but he's got to be careful. Observer will end up falling, so he has a little bit limited vision.
Still +3 for BlinG. MaNa never got that +3 attack finished.
He separated a few Zealots up to the north, but let's focus on the main fight.
BlinG's fight's not the best. The Zealots are stuck at the back, and so are many of these Stalkers.
That's a lot of Stalkers here left over, trying to BlinG back where he can, but that's still a lot of Immortals. They actually don't break through because of the sheer numbers that we're seeing here from BlinG, and the blink forwards on top of those Immortals as well. If he can bring down the Tempest, that's also very, very nice. The numbers just won out for BlinG in the end.
Yeah, look at that. He was able to power underneath the army and then break the Tempest, and he breaks the advantage MaNa has, and also is able to deal damage on the other side of the map with that Warp Prism. And BlinG was put in a difficult position, but he found the right answer. Did lose his 4th base, though, so MaNa's not out of it yet. The game, in terms of what they had been a little bit reset now because they both kind of lost the big key units, but BlinG was left over with quite a lot of gateway units remaining in these Stalkers and still is in this lead.
The one thing, though, is that obviously with BlinG going for that Warp Prism harassment, it did a lot of success. It had a lot of success indeed, killing off the probes, doing the damage to the economy lines, and now BlinG, all he needs to do is kind of clean up and shut up, just go.
I mean, clean up and shut up, yeah.
It's going to be a strong power push here from him.
Yeah, I mean, look at the amount of units he got left over. And definitely got put on the back foot there. Not as easy as this game should have been, but he is warping in units quite heavily on the other side of the map now. Is at 150 supply, and with MaNa down to 30-odd probes, 30 even probes, should I say, 34 right now. A difficult number to be able to maintain a decent army size.
And pushes on forwards a little bit here, and flexes his muscles in front of MaNa's army. He doesn't fully know the size of MaNa's army right now because he doesn't have an observer right next to it, but in the end, I mean, MaNa has to somehow secure these bases while still pushing away this army. It's going to be an uphill struggle.
Yeah, this is definitely not easy. Definitely not easy. And nice movement back there by BlinG outside the photon overcharge. Just jumps inside it once again, but that's the least of his worries.
Yeah, that Archon melting at the front for BlinG doesn't really matter a whole lot because this army has so much power behind it. A few more Zealots walk in, whilst MaNa sacrifices 1 or 2 High Templars down to the south there to try and get any sense of normality sorted. But there you go, GG. BlinG advances forwards 2-0. Impressive Protoss versus Protoss play by him. Impressive
play, and he really is living up to what he's really achieved for himself recently with a round of 16 in Season 1. He's aiming to do that again today. MaNa, unfortunately, does drop down and is going to find himself in a very difficult position, having to win every single game now. And to be honest, every single map will matter in terms of confidence. MaNa, who returns to Premier League, but doesn't even win a single map.
And that now means we have found out our winner's match for today. One of these players is going to be advancing to the round of 16. It's going to either be Snoot or BlinG.
That's going to be a good game. I'm very much so looking forward to this. BlinG just looks in good shape overall.
Yep.
And Snoot seems unstoppable versus Protoss.
Yeah, so can BlinG stop that swarm? We'll find out after the break. So join us when we find out who moves on to the round of 16.